Hello, welcome to Issues and Ideas. I'm Chris DeBello. The only way to understand truth is to have access to factual history. Vietnam War is an example. What happens when emotion overtakes understanding? Price of that disconnect was certainly paid by the men and women who served during that war, as if they didn't already have enough to deal with, as the physical and emotional toll of what they experienced impacted them, still does in many ways to this day. As we get ready to honor our veterans this coming Tuesday on Veterans Day, my first guest today joins us to share how the wrongs I just pointed out have and are being addressed and what that means for our Vietnam veterans. She is the Executive Director of the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial and Museum, which will be holding their Veterans Day ceremony, of course, this coming Tuesday. Amy Osborn, how are you today, Amy?
Hi, Chris. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Always my privilege and honor. NJVVMF. Learn more about the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial and Museum. They're located just off exit 116 of the Garden State Parkway in Homedale, New Jersey. Couldn't be any more easier to find. Of course, it's a parkway. Just make sure what time of day you go. Otherwise, it won't be so easy sometimes. But that's another story for another time.
Do you know, I have a little tidbit here. It was back when they were deciding where to put the Vietnam Memorial. It was between Liberty State Park and Homedale, where it is in Homedale right now, and the board was divided. And so I guess somebody flipped the switch there, and it ended up in Homedale. But I'm so glad that it did, because it's exactly in the middle of the state, right in the middle of the Garden State Parkway. Still in the New York metropolitan area, but I think it's so much easier to get to. And we really loved, our property there, and of course the PNC Arts Center is there as well. And it's a great location. But it was going to be. There was a strong chance it was going to be in Liberty State Park. So I don't know if you knew that or not.
Well, I think it turned out for the better this way because, it's great to be close to New York, but this is a New Jersey project, and I think to have it in the heart of New Jersey is very symbolic as well. So I mentioned Veterans Day coming up Tuesday, and you are certainly going to be paying tribute to our veterans. Talk about what's going to be happening this coming Tuesday.
Well, this year we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the dedication of our Vietnam Memorial. So 30 years ago, General Norman Schwarzkopf, along with Governor Christine Todd Whitman and her husband, who was a Vietnam veteran, John Whitman, dedicated this beautiful place that is, so treasured, and it's such a gem here in New Jersey, and so meaningful to our veterans and their families. So we're celebrating our 30th anniversary, which is a big milestone, and that's an exciting thing. And then part two is that we are going to have Governor Phil Murphy and First Lady Tammy Murphy joining us for what will be his last official Veterans Day ceremony at our place as governor. And I think it's going to be, emotional. I'm getting emotional talking about it, which is I guess, something I'm known for, a little bit of crying here and there. But I think it'll be an emotional day. Certainly the governor has been very supportive of us, and we love having him there. So it's going to be a great day. Hopefully we'll have good weather. I know it's going to be a little bit on the chilly side, but as long as the sun is shining, we'll be in good shape.
I always encourage people, if they can, to turn out for these events, because it's the easiest way, and maybe for some people, a lot of cases, the first way that they could recognize what these men and women did in their service. And since we're into tidbits, I think it's only important to point out that the wall that Amy referred to was designed by a native from Vietnam. Isn't that true?
It is true. And when they were looking for a design for the Vietnam Memorial and the 5.5-acre property I think it was called Telegraph Hill Park way back in the day in the 80s. And when they were looking for a design for that, there were no names or anything about the architects associated with the plans. All they had were a bunch of plans from which to choose, the committee back then. And they chose the most outstanding plan. And it happened to have been done by a Vietnamese refugee. And I love that story because it wasn't intentional that they had given him the job of designing this memorial. His his design was the most outstanding of them all, and it just so happened that he was a refugee, and he stops by the memorial from time to time, and we love having him and seeing what we've done with the place, the updates that we've made, and so it's a great story. I do love that tidbit. I'm glad you brought that up, Chris.
Mentioned in the introduction, too, that there's a disconnect that happens when there's not a full understanding of whatever the point of focus is, in this case, the Vietnam War era. Along with the wall and the tributes, there is, of course, the Veterans Museum. What is the goal that you strive for, and how is that built and developed and expanded over these past 30 years?
Well, I can tell you, I've started in February of 2023, so I'm approaching my third-year anniversary with the place, but I think it began as an educational center and a memorial, and that was really where it had stopped and kind of stayed for many years. When I came in, I wanted to see this place get national exposure, national recognition. We are, Chris, the only one of its kind in the country. We are the only Vietnam memorial with an education center and a museum in the entire nation. And I think that's worth publicizing, and I was trying to think of a way that I could do that. And we made a film, a documentary film, with an Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker, Vanessa Ross. The film is called A Place of Honor, and it has gotten, it's an award-winning film at this point. We just got back from D.C., where we were a featured film at the GI Film Festival in D.C. They chose 13 films over the course of 10 years. Think about how many films that is.
Wow.
13 films were featured over the course of 10 years this week in D.C., and ours was one of them. And I'm just so proud of this film. It tells the story of how the New Jersey Vietnam Memorial and Museum got there, the important work that we do to give comfort to the Gold Star families, to give the Vietnam veterans a place to call home, to come visit their brothers on the wall, to educate the 10,000 plus students from New Jersey that we educate every year. That's where, and most importantly, perhaps, why it needs to be supported by the state of New Jersey so that it's there for future generations, to tell the story of the Vietnam War and to educate our visitors. So that is what this film does. I'm so proud that we did that. I'm proud of our success. And I think that's the biggest way the place has changed under my leadership, has been to publicize it. Because, Chris, when I got there, you know what they said to me? We're the best kept secret in Monmouth County.
Wow.
I said, I have my work cut out for me, because that is not a good thing.
No.
So, yeah. And now, Chris, I wanted to tell you, when we were in Beverly Hills at an award show where our film was nominated for Best Vietnam Documentary Short Film, we won.
Yes.
So now, when you have people in California that know about you, people in D.C. that know about you, and every, film festivals in between the coasts, then I think it really starts to, you start to build on that as a national center of excellence for the Vietnam War. And I think that is our goal. And it should be our goal, because a lot of people worked really hard to put this place there. It was built with private funds, led by the fundraising was led by John Whitman, and so I think we can't waste that. We've got to make sure this place is here for future generations.
So with Amy Osborn, Executive Director of New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial and Museum, njvvmf.org, their website. They're located right off exit 116 of the Garden State Parkway, and you are listening to Issues and Ideas. Looked up some stats regarding Vietnam veterans. According to VA and other sources, 2.7 million troops served in Vietnam over those long years. And as of today, according to the Disabled American Veterans, this is troops who actually went to Vietnam, not people who were serving overall in the military. There were only, out of those 2.7 million, only 850,000 surviving Vietnam War veterans. Red Warriors organization estimates we're losing 390 of those veterans every day from age, health issues due to exposure to Agent Orange and things like that. With the museum being that connection where veterans come in, you do special events, you have the Circle of Letters. There's a way for people to hear the living history and learn the living history. But living history isn't for everybody, and that's why I think adds to the importance of what you're doing in the here and now at the museum.
I agree, absolutely. And as you were talking, I knew I wanted to tell you about this next. We have something called the In Memory program. So there are those who lost their lives in Southeast Asia, and the ones from New Jersey are on our wall. And then the In Memory program is for Vietnam veterans who served and later came home and later passed away from either injuries or illnesses sustained while they were serving in Vietnam. And we put their name and their information on a beautiful tile, and those tiles are up along the lower wall. So the granite wall, that's all those names that are sandblasted in the granite were died over there. And the ones who came home and eventually died from complications from serving are on the lower walls, and it really looks beautiful. And last month we held an in-memory ceremony where all of the family members who had submitted names for those tiles came, and it was the most beautiful ceremony, I think, in my 3 years being at the Vietnam Memorial. I mean, there was a lot. We talk about tears. I mean, there were tears, there were hugs. There was just an abundance of emotion from these family members, and a lot of thank yous saying, you know, we can't tell you how much we appreciate the fact that we can come here and we can see our loved one's name on one of these tiles. And so, in addition to getting the tile that's up on the wall, they also have the opportunity to put together a binder that tells their story, so we have a whole bookcase of these binders now where, say, your uncle passed away when he came back from Vietnam and his tile is on our wall out at our memorial. You can then go into our education center and over to the bookshelf, and you can pull out his binder, and his pictures are in there and his mementos and things that tell the story of his life. And it means so much to the family members. And, well, that's one of the things that I'm really most proud of, that we got that program working again so that these family members would have that to comfort them.
And I think I think what the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial Museum does is it adds the human factor into this element of history where we look at it for the mechanical and the cold and the steel, but there's heart and soul that not just on Veterans Day, we need to recognize every day, and the work that the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial and Museum does helps in that effort. If you can't be there with the ceremony this coming Tuesday for Veterans Day, well, they are open all the time, and a day and time that will be convenient for you. And I think because it sounds weird to say, but to celebrate and to honor and to even mourn, that's something you could do in one location with your heart and your soul and show that you care with your respect for our veterans and with your financial support as well. I mean, it's great that the state ponies up money, but we have to be guaranteeing that the work that the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial Museum does continues to accomplish more and more of what it is already doing. So find out more. It's njvvmf.org. They're right off Garden State Parkway, exit 116, Homedale, New Jersey. Amy Osborn, Executive Director of the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial Museum. Thank you so much for the honor, the tribute, and the truth that you present of our veterans for us to absorb and learn from. Thanks for being here today.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you have a good weekend.
Today, as we pay much-deserved tribute to our veterans, we look at them, of course, as towers of courage and strength. We also have to remember they're also human, whose dedication to God and country often result in times of challenge when their days of service are over. Those challenges can range from being physical, emotional, financial as well. We owe a great debt to these men and women. The next guest is part of an organization which works to repay that debt and gives you the opportunity to be a part of giving the honor and support that our veterans so richly deserve, especially in their times of challenge. Here to share all that the Wounded Warrior Project offers our veterans is their Vice President of Connection, Wilton Williamson. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
Great to have you here. Talk about a wonderful organization that helps in so many ways and proven results, too. WoundedWarriorProject.org is the website. We have that link at our homepage as well. Let's start with the basics, and we'll explore further. The title gives a clue, but talk more about in detail some of the projects and some of the support that the Wounded Warrior Project gives our heroes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Chris, our mission is very simple, but complex and complicated at the same time. Our mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors. And our organization has over 18 different life-saving programs that we have and that we deploy to help warriors and their families. What's unique about the organization that I really just admire is the fact that we're not just taking care of the warrior, but we're also taking care of the warrior's family unit. When we deploy and when we serve in our military services, we don't serve alone, right? We serve with our loved ones, we serve with our spouses, we serve with our children. And at the Wounded Warrior Project, we honor not just the warrior, but also their families as well. So we have everything from our mental health programs. You alluded to it in the intro. My program that I lead is our connection program, which we understand fully that we must first get warriors to connect before they can start to heal. And we do that in a multiple of different ways.
I noticed, too, in looking at the various programs, let's stay with the emotional side of things, you have the professionals offering counseling, but you make a difference where other organizations, I think, miss the mark. You also have organized peer efforts. So it's someone who has been there or was there with the person. There's mutual help at the same level, not just someone in need of help talking to someone who's going to give the help.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's under my program that I lead. Our peer support groups, our warrior volunteers are extremely vital to our mission. When you think about warriors as they're exiting the military, many of us, kind of go back to our communities that we come from. I'm actually from New York originally, but I didn't go back to New York. I went back to a similar city that's large, metropolis city, but also warriors go back to rural communities. So where we can't always have our footprint, our warrior volunteers play an extreme role. And I'm going to use a little bit of a military term. We call them force multipliers, where they're able to go out in places like where I recruited at one point, Kennewick, Washington, or Walla Walla, and that peer-to-peer support where you may have a warrior that's actually in a better place, being able to help another peer is extremely vital to our mission. If you look at our logo really says it all. I mean, when you have the warrior on the bottom carrying the warrior on top, when I see that logo, I think about it as being interchangeable, right? So you may have had a warrior that was struggling at some point, but now that warrior is stronger. Now they're the warrior in the bottom, able to carry one of their brothers and sisters on the top and be able to kind of help them out as they're going throughout their journey.
I noticed, too, through the variety of programs Wounded Warrior Project offers, it's a focus on the things that are priorities for the needs of our veterans, but you come at them in so many different ways that bring the veterans to the results that you hope you can achieve with them. They include financial assistance and guidance, help with VA benefits, and I always thought the most overlooked because it's changing for the better now, but veteran employment was always there was always a gap. There were actually businesses who were reluctant to hire veterans, which I always found surprising because who else can you find that's more dedicated to a purpose, more loyal? They'll show up, which these days, if you look at the workplace, that alone puts you to the head of the class in so many cases. But to know that they can transition fully back into civilian life as far as family and be a contributor through working, that plays a role in the mental balance as well, doesn't it?
It really does. You're actually speaking to my previous career. I spent a lot of time post-Marine Corps working in the veteran employment space. And, it's interesting when an employer may be a little apprehensive in hiring a veteran. And once they bring a veteran on, it's like, oh, my goodness, I didn't know all the value that they could bring. And you've alluded to a lot of it. I mean, not just the tangible benefits of hiring a veteran, because today's military is very different. I mean, We operate with a lot of sophisticated equipment, weaponry systems, just different things. And to include the intangible benefits veterans bring about being highly adaptable, you're talking about the most diverse organization in the world. So everything from racial background and educational background and socioeconomics, et cetera, right? Veterans come from all different walks of life, and being able to serve in that unique experience can really lend valuable when an employer is seeking a new candidate for hire.
Talking Wilton Williamson, who is Vice President of Connection with Wounded Warrior Project. WoundedWarriorProject.org is their website, and you are listening to Issues and Ideas. Veterans Day is a wonderful thing because it helps us remember how and why we need to and should honor our veterans. And I always like to point out, too, that it's a day of awareness we need to carry the other 364 days throughout the year. How does Wounded Warrior Project do that? What are the needs of our veterans, and how can someone listening right now play a role in the work that you do?
Yeah, so a couple things. I think your question sounds a bit twofold. So we are honoring Veterans Day. I'm actually sitting in New York City right now. I'm going to be a part of the Veterans Day parade with my team. So, supporters, families, just good Americans can come out and actually, march with us in the parade. We have hundreds of veterans this year. I want to say we have upwards of 400 veterans that are going to be marching in the parade. This is actually a very special time of the year for me as well. Monday's Marine Corps birthday, the 250th. Just this year, we celebrated the Army, the United States Army, Navy, and the Marine Corps' 250th birthday, and coupled with the fact that we have Veterans Day. So I would encourage participators to come out. You can wave a flag. It's going to be a great event. But at the Wounded Warrior Project, we have these similar activations going throughout the country, also to include Germany and places like Puerto Rico. So we are here to support. We are going to be honoring on Veterans Day. I'm really excited. The city that I grew up in, I'm able to march down Fifth Avenue with the warriors and their families, and it's a really exciting time of the year. But yeah, I would highly encourage folks, whether it just be say thank you to another veteran in their community if they can't come out to parades and things of that nature, or if they see a veteran in need, or even go into a veteran's home, right? There's many veterans that are not always supported as they're aging in their lives, and you can always be a cup of coffee, right, or lunch, which would really be meaningful to men and women that have served like myself.
And we've been talking about all the programs Wounded Warrior Project does. I saved the best for last. And again, this is where you listening can play a role in the work, because these programs for the veterans, all these services, they're free. But that's only possible when you come through with your financial support for the Wounded Warrior Project. For the veteran listening right now who is saying, you know what, I've been here, I know the name, but I just never thought it was for me. Now they better understand that what you provide is indeed what they're looking for. How does a veteran get involved with the various programs that Wounded Warrior Project offers?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. I would highly encourage every single veteran that has served to reach out to the Wounded Warrior Project through our resource center, which is part of my operations that I have the pleasure of leading, and get registered. Our registration process is fairly simple, and it gives you access to all the programs. Even if you don't think you need a program at this point in your life, you could. And not just for yourself. Think about your family support members and caregivers that have supported you throughout your military journey. They could also have access to these programs as well. So it could be reaching out to us on our website. It could also be calling our resource center. But a really great place to start would be the website. We have QR codes on there where it will take them exactly to the landing page where they can just fill out their information. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes to get registered. But once you're an alumni, that's what we call folks that are part of our registration system, Wounded Warrior Project alumni. Once you become an alumni of the Wounded Warrior Project, this is a lifetime membership. And you alluded to it earlier, sir. These programs and services are free to the incredible generosity of the American people. So this is a really great opportunity for women and men that have served in the United States military to just come out, gain some camaraderie. You might make some new friends. We have some really great events that we do. They're really meaningful, and I don't think anyone would regret it. It feels like service after your service, because you're still able to connect with folks that you've served with that are like-minded and mission-driven.
I want to add, too, at WoundedWarriorProject.org, education is always great motivation. There is a very in-depth study for you to learn who our veteran is today in America. And I'll put a link over at the homepage as well, and they'll get you directly to that report because it's very valuable and also proves, too, that the Wounded Warrior Project is not just throwing things against the wall and hope something sticks. They are focused, and they have the knowledge and the tools to help our veterans. And one of those ways to help is when you join the work that they do. Find out more at woundedwarriorproject.org. He is the Vice President of Connection for Wounded Warrior Project, Wilton Williamson. Thank you so much for helping us know that we can show our compassion, our care, our love for our veterans in so many ways that will be long-lasting. And thank you so much for being here today, sir.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. Happy Veterans Day, and God bless America.
It's time once again for Trump Said It.
We gave Miriam the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian version. It's actually much better because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets, or they're dead. She gets it, and she's a healthy, beautiful woman. And they're rated equal.
War has been visually preserved by video, of course, before that film, and going as far back as the Civil War with still photos. Yet, for the most part, it was the warfare in action that was the focus through those means. My next guest has brought to us a film about war that shows the strength and the courage, the humanity of U.S. Marines and soldiers as they confront the enemy in what were the toughest battles in the Iraq War. And when you watch this documentary, which will premiere Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern on PBS, it will give you access to the hearts and souls of these men who started every day wondering if this was going to be their last day. The film is The Last 600 Meters, with us now as the producer and director, or founder and president of Manifold Productions, Michael Pack. How are you today, Michael?
I'm very well. Good to be with you, Chris.
Well, thank you for this film because, as I said, we always see the events in documenting war and times of war. You brought us the human side of all things. ManifoldProductions.com is where you can find out more and see some screeners about the last 600 meters. Talk about who this film introduces us to.
Absolutely. And by the way, if your listeners miss it on PBS, it'll be streaming on Amazon and other places as of Veterans Day, Tuesday. Well, we introduce you to the soldiers and Marines on the ground, and that's the focus of the film. Not experts back in Washington or diplomats or government officials, but the people fighting the battles. And we intend to tell a battle story as if these battles were Gettysburg or Iwo Jima or other historically significant battles in American history. And I think that's very appropriate right now before Veterans Day. I'm proud that PBS is broadcast on Monday, the day before Veterans Day at 10 p.m., which is also the 250th birthday of the Marine Corps. And these were mainly, but not exclusively, Marine battles. And just to give you a sense of this, we call it the last 600 meters because a sniper in the film says, I don't make foreign policy, I deliver the last 600 meters of it, meaning what he can see through his sniper scope. And that's the kind of people we introduce you to, the people responsible for the last 600 meters.
And these last 600 meters were probably in the toughest turf and the toughest ways of battle. Guerrilla warfare is the most deadly and the most unpredictable, and that's exactly what these men had to be a part of.
That's right, and I think it's important to try to understand what that kind of warfare is like. I mean, often we think of war, we think of World War I, World War II, the Civil War, big, massive battles, or even the first Gulf War. But the most common warfare is this kind of counterinsurgency, guerrilla war, as you say, and we should really understand it. And I think, I conducted the interviews with these people, the soldiers and Marines, back in 2007, 3 years after the battle, when their memories were fresh and they still look like they did in the footage. But I think it's taken a long time for us to get PBS to broadcast it, and I'm proud they're doing it now. And this might be the right time because I think our views of the Iraq War clouded our sense of what these veterans did for us. These were not popular. This was not a popular war, and nor the one in Afghanistan. So the soldiers and Marines coming home, I don't think they got their due. And whatever you think of the war, we should really celebrate the heroism and valor of these young men and women who are, after all, risking their lives, fighting, and in some cases dying for us.
And you bring, I think, the proper focus, because I'm almost certain that most people, when they hear the name of the town Fallujah, oh yeah, I've heard of that. But okay, what have you heard about that? Well, your film, Last 600 Meters, fills in the blanks that so many people have. When Fallujah is mentioned, it's almost like a passing car down the expressway, and all of a sudden we're off into the other topic, and not enough proper time is spent on what fighting in Fallujah meant, what it cost. And some of the amazing stories, I don't want to tip too much off here, but you tell the story of a corporal who was shot not in the head, through the head, survives, and then feels bad because he's taken out of the game.
Yeah, that's right. Matthew Piano, and right, he's shot. His other people on his squad think he's going to be dead, as Jan Bender, one of the people on the squad, says. We thought we'd take the helmet out and there would be blood and guts in it, but it went right through his Kevlar helmet and came out the end. He was wounded, taken off the battlefield, and he said he felt he had let his fellow Marines down. As he says, you're not supposed to get wounded, but for the rest of us, we don't really see it that way, and these young men are heroic, and we focus on people at that level, corporals, sergeants, but up to one-star generals that are in the field. But these ones at the private corporal sergeant level, they really are so young. I mean, they're sometimes in their late teens or early 20s, and we're really asking them for a lot, not only to risk their lives, but to make, difficult decisions. Is this Iraqi civilian hiding an IED and going to kill me, or is he or she someone that we need to help and win over? So we ask a lot of them, and I think the least we can do is hear their stories, especially right before Veterans Day.
Troy Melkopak, who is the producer and director of the documentary The Last 600 Meters, debuting Monday, 10 p.m. Eastern on PBS and streaming afterwards on Amazon and I believe other locations too. You'll find out more at manifoldproductions.com, and you are listening to Issues and Ideas. You mentioned the timeline of getting this film together. Why do you think there was a reluctancy to bring it? Because we're talking from you technically had the film, or once you did the interviews, I'm sure post-production, you probably technically had the film ready to go, 2008, 2009, if someone wanted to say, yeah, we'll run it.
Exactly. We finished a version in 2008. And although I've made 15 films in my career that have been broadcast nationally on PBS, the one before this was Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words, about the life of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, and PBS put them all on in reasonably prompt time. This one just had opposition. It was just caught up by politics. Originally, the people on PBS told me that my film was too pro-military, which I'm not even sure what that means, but I deny it anyway. I mean, the film, we do celebrate the heroism and valor of these people fighting for us, but we do not stint in describing the horrors of war, and that are very real. I mean, you see horrible things happen. Feral dogs, going through Fallujah looking for carrion to feed on. So lots of horrible stuff. I don't think we downplay that, but I think what happened is people were caught up in politics, even though the film really purposely does not discuss the politics of the war. Should we be there? Were there weapons of mass destruction? Was Bush right or wrong? I mean, none of that. I mean, I had my own opinions of it at the time. I have my opinions now, but we tried not to do this. But I think in spite of that, it got caught up in politics. And as I say now, I think there's enough distance. It's over 20 years since these battles. We can really look back on them a little more dispassionately. So maybe it's the right time for the film. But I actually think the film is timeless. I mean, we captured the moment. I think these, as you say, these are biggest battles of the Iraq War, actually the biggest battle since Vietnam, people will want to look back on it 10, 20 years hence. And I hope they will consult my film, because I think we documented what happened. And you're right. People heard the word Fallujah. They haven't even heard the word Najaf. And, we need to know what happened there, just like with Gettysburg or Iwo Jima or Yorktown or anything else. So, and particularly these battles, are especially relevant. We're still enmeshed in this kind of warfare, or our allies are, in Ukraine, in Gaza, and will be again.
What caught my attention, among many things, with the fight in the last 600 meters, I've done this show more years than I care to admit, but I've been able to talk with veterans from World War II, Vietnam, authors who compiled conversations with those veterans, and the common thread was so many of the majority, I'll say, were reluctant to talk about what they did, what they confronted, and that's the young men you show. At least visually, what we get to see in the last 600 meters, they're the complete opposite. They want to talk. They see it as a way to release, and I don't know if they want to be teachers of truth as far as what soldiers on the battlefield face, but they are indeed doing that in the last 600 meters.
They are very articulate. There's one woman and the rest men, young men and women, but it does take time to get them to agree to tell their story. I mean, that is part of the art of making documentary films, getting people to trust you enough that you will tell their story fairly. And it did take a while, but once we did get their trust, they were very forthcoming and very articulate. And we had a screening in Washington recently where we brought some of these veterans back, including the one you mentioned, Matthew Piano, and we had Q&A afterwards, and they were up front. And even now they say they hope their children and their families see it, because they still can't talk completely about these events, and I think they want the film to speak for them, and I hope it does. And we were lucky to get them to come forward like that. I mean, it was sort of a privilege, and you're right, it is very difficult. It's hard to talk about these things. Being shot in the head and taken off the battlefield is not the easiest thing to want to relive. So we are honored, privileged that they did tell us their story. And I think you're right, they're very, very articulate.
For you listening, I have one thing to say. Watch this documentary, The Last 600 Meters. Everything you thought about our soldiers, everything you believed about warfare, everything you might have been thinking or maybe changed your thoughts about with the Iraq War, you are going to be as well informed as you possibly can be about the human side of warfare through these brave men who are featured in Michael's documentary, The Last 600 Meters, debuting Monday on PBS, 10 p.m. After that, it'll be streaming on Amazon. You can find out more at manifoldproductions.com. Michael, thank you for telling these brave heroes' stories, because we are in such need of the understanding of what courage is and what dedication to duty is all about. You help us understand all that, and I thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for saying that, and thank you for having me on your show.
As we've been focusing on today, this Tuesday is Veterans Day. It's a day when we're called on to honor and give thanks to all those who served in our military. This includes those who are with us and those who have left us. Our veterans, through their selfless acts, provide for all of us insight and understanding of God's will and His word for us all. Right at the start, every soldier swears an oath to God and country. This is one of the ways a soldier lives God's word. Here's what we find in Psalm chapter 61, verse 8. So I will sing praise to your name forever, that I may daily perform my vows. A veteran is a soldier who laid their life on the line for others. This is how they lived the words of Jesus, which we read in Mark chapter 10, verse 45. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. There's kind of a trust factor engraved into every soldier which stays with them as a veteran. They know that to trust themselves, that's only valuable when they have a trust in God. Here's how Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6 teaches this. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. When you sit and listen to a veteran tell their stories about what they experienced, you most certainly get a greater understanding about endurance against those who want to stop and even kill them. This is the way our heroes live 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 12. And we labor, working with our own hands, being reviled we bless, being persecuted we endure. When you weigh all that someone in military service, no matter the duty, has to overcome, how much of that load do you think you could carry? Well, if you live the words as soldiers do of 1 John chapter 5, verse 4, you'll learn that you can carry quite a bit more than you think. For whatever is born of God overcomes the world, and this is the victory that has overcome the world, our faith. Situations that our veterans faced would certainly bring fear to our hearts, and those same events brought a whole different fear to those in battle. The second fear erased the first fear. It's the fear or reverence for God, which brings that about. Luke chapter 12, verses 4 and 5 explains it this way. And I say to you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do, but I will show you whom you shall fear. Fear him, meaning God, who after he has killed has the power to cast into hell. Yes, I say to you, fear him. Our veterans certainly are not whiners in any way, shape, or form. That's a carryover from their time of service, and that's how they teach us the lesson we find in Philippians chapter 2, verses 14 through 16. Do all things without complaining and disputing, that you may become blameless and harmless children of God, without fault in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world, holding fast the word of life. Now, you probably think that courage is the foundation of every member of our military and every veteran that we meet. You do, you're half right. The level of humility every soldier and veteran possesses is equal to their courage. This is their obedience to Jesus, who in Luke chapter 17, verse 10 teaches, so likewise you, when you have done all those things which you are commanded, say, we are unprofitable servants, we have done what was our duty to do. But when you get down to it and really look into what makes each of our veterans worthy of our respect and praise, it's the faith that they possess and how they stand on their faith, which really should inspire us all. Their faith doesn't rest on medals or citations, anything that's earthly. The foundation of their faith is explained in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 through 9. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Finally, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day, and not to me only, but also to all who have loved his appearing. One of the many magnificent things about God is that he doesn't just drop his word at our feet, cross his fingers, and hope for the best from us. He also blesses us with teachers who are not just in the pulpit, but are here for us to honor and love for the way that they live God's word and help us see the way to live God's word. That would be our veterans. They are our inspiration to live the words that we read in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. Let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind let each esteem others better than himself. Don't forget to check out our website, issuesandideasradio.com. That's where you'll find more information about the guests who joined us here in the show today. And in light of the continued turmoil regarding SNAP benefits, what the partial payment will be, won't be, when the funding will actually be released, we have a link at our homepage almost as soon as you log on that will help you find the local food pantry near you. For two reasons. One, if you're in need of food assistance, that's where you can go for the help and the support that you need. And if you want to support your local food pantry, you can find that local food pantry at that link as well. You'll find that and a lot more at issuesandideasradio.com. Thank you as always for your time and attention. Very important and valuable to us. And thank you as well for every one of our veterans for the service, the sacrifice, the dedication that you showed to our nation. Thank you.
Some of you are not going to like what I'm about to do, but I got something I got to get off my chest. And it has really very little to do with what we're here to do, but it has everything to do with what I've been telling you for weeks and months about what's wrong with this country. You know, Many of you go to concerts now, and your favorite musician is now a politician, right? You get that crammed down your throat. It used to be you'd buy a ticket for entertainment, right, to escape the world. Now it follows you into the entertainment. You cannot escape it. Just as when you go to sporting venues and things like that. And so I thought I would start off by doing one thing, because it's gnawing on me terribly. For the benefit of those people who will see this again and again on the internet, and for the benefit of young people who were born in this country, who have no idea, none, of what I'm about to do and what it means to me as an American citizen, I would like to ask the question of any person in this sanctuary, past or present, who is serving in any capacity, armed forces, military, Navy, any type of service. I would like you to stand. Please don't applaud. I'd like you to stand and remain standing. Would you stand up? Okay, don't applaud. How many of you have loved ones? That's past, that means deceased, present, or possibly budding in your future, family members who have served or who have served and are deceased, who have served and are still alive, or those who are just being raised up to serve. Please stand up and do not applaud. How many law enforcement do I have here? Fire, EMT, who serve because their county, their city, their state, their service, they understand is a great privilege to be here under that banner. How many? Please stand, don't applaud. All right? The rest of you, how many of you, like me, came to this country, and I came to this country, I was not born here, fleeing from, for some people, refuge, looking for the American dream, hope, perhaps pursuing something that was not in your homeland, or if you don't fit under that banner, your parents, your grandparents, or your great-grandparents who came to this country as immigrants for something better, please stand up. Now, let me just tell you what should be left here in this room. Maybe some first Native people, some first American Native people who were born on this land, who at some point came here anyway, and those might fit under the banner of serving past, present, or future. Maybe firemen or any type of service. So no one's immune. There should be every single person standing. That's why I say that when we're in church right now, but this is really core to me, so I want you to understand. When we lose respect for standing for our national anthem and for the flag, which we all claim we treasure, when we lose respect for that, we should leave this country and be shamefaced and not bring our politics of our skin color or the issues of the day for standing and respecting those people who have served, will serve, and do proudly serve to this day for the honor and the privilege of standing under the banner which is called the United States of America and the flag for which we should all stand for. I don't know about you. By the way, you may be seated. Those colors, you know, the thing that says these colors don't run? We've never run from anything. And there are some very uneducated people who are highly overpaid in the entertainment, and I'm using entertainment as a broad spectrum. This actually has to do with the San Francisco 49 player. I normally don't say things like this, but it sends such a message to our young people that it's okay to disrespect you who have paid a price, and people like me who came, and your parents and your grandparents, and the people who came in pursuit and lack, by the way, of knowledge of standing for this anthem we call the Star-Spangled Banner, which most of the time at sporting events, only one portion is sung. I'm sure most of these people do not even know the history of how that song that we call our anthem was penned. And for me, as an American, the curiosity to know what would inspire someone like Key, who wrote the anthem during the War of 1814, while British bombs, mind you, were bombarding a fort. He began to be inspired as he looked and saw a flag flying over that fort, inspired to sit down and pen what is now our anthem. And most people do not know that there are 4 verses, 4 parts to the anthem. You only hear one at a sporting event. And I had to highlight this to make sure that, just for the benefit of those people who are so overpaid that they cannot educate themselves on what idiocy. I'm sorry, I'm offended. And I'm offended at any American who would think it's okay to send a message. I will sit while something that is supposed to represent my freedom, that's something that should be entertaining, not political. I know you're in church and you're saying, who am I? Well, I'm telling you, because if respect doesn't start at the house of God and spread outwards, and that's part of the problem, this is who we have setting the standard for our country, that kids look up to. Overpaid athletes who cannot figure out they're going to set the tone for young people to look at and look up to. What a great tone it is. But let me read you the 4th portion of what is never sung. Oh, thus be it ever when free men shall stand. May I read that again? Oh, thus be it ever when free men shall stand. Praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must when our cause is just. And this be our motto: in God, in our God, we trust. It took 49 years after the penning of this, which has become our anthem. It took 49 years for Abraham Lincoln to sign the Emancipation Proclamation, and another almost 100 years for the Civil Rights Act to come into effect in 1963, to finally, we're not talking Brown versus the Board of Education in 54, we're talking about in 1963. Now, our country has a lot of tarnishes on it. No one is going to try and deny that. There is no country that was ever founded on perfection. This country was founded on people coming to pursue the right to worship, to have freedom, to be free from the tyranny of the crown, to be free to worship, to have those freedoms. So it offends me when somebody begins to set a precedent, and I'm hearing the media report this, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? It has to start here in the house of God and spread outwards. That's why I tell you, don't come in here with your whatever you think ought to be. You're going to show respect for God's house, and the respect's going to flow out. And the people who are at least following me will understand, I became an American citizen. I'm proud of my citizenship. When I turned in my passport and they gave me an American flag in one hand and a passport in the other, that day was the end of the day of saying, I am this. I am an American citizen. And it is my duty, to act like one. The message should be sent. So, I know, listen to me. I know I agree with you. You may be seated. I just want you to know something. This has been eating at me because I cannot understand how, just indulge me for 30 seconds more, how something called the National Football League, national, can say, but we don't make anybody stand because they have a right. You know what? If you don't want to stand for the anthem and the flag, you should find the door to leave this country once and for all and rid us of your... wait a minute. Rid us of your lack of enthusiasm for the freedom that people paid for so dearly for you to get your $20 or $40 million salary to play ball.